has a nice way of putting things when he says, as he commonly does, that to him the utterances of the unenlightened are as noises emanating from the belly. What difference does it make to me, he asks, whether their rumblings come from their upper or their nether regions? What utter foolishness it is to be afraid that those who have a bad name can rob you of a good one. Just as the dread aroused in you by some common report has proved groundless, so too is the dread of things of which you would never be afraid, if common report did not tell you to be. What harm could ever come to a good man from being besmirched by unwarranted gossip? We shouldn't even let it prejudice us against death, which itself has an evil reputation. Yet none of the people who malign it has put it to the test. Until one does, it's rather rash to condemn a thing one knows nothing about. And yet one thing you do know, and that is this: how many people it's a blessing to, how many people it frees from torture, want, maladies, suffering, weariness. And no one has power over us when death is within our own power. Letter number 104. I've got away to my place at Momentum. Getting away from what? Guess. The city? No, a fever. And just as it was infiltrating my defences too. It had already taken hold on me, my doctor being decided, in his opinion, that a disturbed, irregular pulse, its natural rhythm upset, was the start of it. Whereupon I immediately ordered my carriage out, and although my Paulina tried to hold me back, insisted on driving away. I kept saying the same thing as my mentor, Gallio, when he started sickening for a fever in Achaia. He immediately boarded a ship, assuring everyone that the disorder was to be put down to the place where he was living and not to his constitution. I told Paulina this. She is forever urging me to take care of my health, and indeed, as I come to realize the way her very being depends on mine, I am beginning in my concern for her to feel some concern for myself. So, although old age has made me better at putting up with a lot of things, here I am coming to lose this advantage of being old. The notion occurs to me that inside this old frame there exists a young man as well, and one is always less severe on a young man. The consequence is that since I haven't managed to get her to put a little more bravery into her love for me, she has managed to induce me to show a little more love and care for myself. For concessions have to be made to legitimate emotions. There are times when, however pressing one's reasons to the contrary, one's dying breath requires to be summoned back and held back, even as it is passing one's lips, even if this amounts to torture, simply out of consideration for one's dear ones. The good man should go on living as long as he ought to, not just as long as he likes. The man who does not value his wife or a friend highly enough to stay on a little longer in life, who persists in dying in spite of them, is a thoroughly self-indulgent character. This is a duty which the soul should also impose on itself when it is merely the convenience of near and dear ones that demands it. And not only if and when it feels the wish to die, but also if and when it has begun to carry out the wish, it should pause a while to fit in with their interests. To return to life for another's sake is a sign of a noble spirit. It is something that great men have done on a number of occasions. Yet, to give your old age greater care and attentiveness in the realization that this pleases any of the persons closest to you, or is in their interests, or would be likely to gratify them, this in spite of the fact that the greatest reward of that period is the opportunity it gives you to adopt a relatively carefree attitude towards looking after yourself and a more adventurous manner of living, is also, to my mind, a mark of the highest possible kindness. Besides, it brings you more than a little pleasure and recompense. For can anything be sweeter than to find that you are so dear to your wife that this makes you dearer to yourself? So it comes about that my Paulina succeeds in making me responsible for anxiety of my own, as well as hers on my behalf. I expect you're keen to hear what effect it had on my health, this decision of mine to leave. Well, no sooner had I left behind the oppressive atmosphere of the city, and that reek of smoking cookers which pour out along with a cloud of ashes all the poisonous fumes they've accumulated in their interiors whenever they're started up, that I noticed the change in my condition at once. You can imagine how much stronger I felt after reaching my vineyards. I fairly waded into my food. Talk about animals just turned out onto spring grass. So, by now I'm quite my old self again. That feeling of listlessness, being bodily ill at ease and mentally inefficient, didn't last. I'm beginning to get down to some wholehearted work. This is not something, however, to which mere surroundings are conducive. Unless the mind is at its own disposal, able at will to provide its own seclusion, even in crowded moments. On the contrary, the man who spends his time choosing one resort after another in a hunt for peace and quiet will, in every place he visits, find something to prevent him from relaxing. The story is told that someone complained to Socrates that traveling abroad had never done him any good, and received the reply, "What else can you expect, seeing that you always take yourself along with you when you go abroad? What a blessing it would be for some people if they could only lose themselves. As things are, these persons are a worry and a burden, a source of demoralization and anxiety to their own selves. What good does it do you to go overseas, to move from city to city? If you really want to escape the things that harass you, what you're needing is not to be in a different place, but to be a different person. Suppose you've arrived in Athens, or suppose it's Rhodes. Choose any country you like. What difference does the character of the place make? You'll only be importing your own with you. You'll still look on wealth as a thing to be valued. Your poverty will be causing you torment, while this being the most pathetic thing about it all, your poverty will be imaginary. However much you possess, there's someone else who has more, and you'll be fancying yourself to be short of things you need to the exact extent to which you lag behind him. Another thing that you'll regard as something to be valued is success in public life, in which case you're going to feel resentment when so-and-so is elected consul, or when so-and-so is re-elected for that matter, and be jealous whenever you see a person's name appearing too often in the honours lists. Your ambition will be running at so feverish a pitch that if anyone's ahead of you in the race, you'll see yourself as coming last. Death you'll think of as the worst of all bad things, though in fact there's nothing bad about it at all, except the thing which comes before it, the fear of it. You'll be scared stiff by illusory as well as genuine dangers, haunted by imaginary alarms. What good will it do you to have found a route past all those Argive forts and one escape right through the enemy's lines? Peace itself will supply you with new fears. If your mind has once experienced the shocks of fright, you'll no longer have any confidence, even in things which are perfectly safe. Once it has acquired the habit of unthinking panic, it is incapable even of attending to its own self-preservation, for it runs away from dangers instead of taking steps to avert them, and we're far more exposed to them once our backs are turned. To lose someone you love is something you'll regard as the hardest of all blows to bear, while all the time this will be as silly as crying because the leaves fall from the beautiful trees that add to the charm of your home. Preserve a sense of proportion in your attitude to everything that pleases you, and make the most of them while they are at their best. At one moment, chance will carry off one of them, at another moment another. But the falling of the leaves is not difficult to bear, since they grow again, and it is no more hard to bear the loss of those whom you love and regard as brightening your existence. For even if they do not grow again, they are replaced. But their successors will never be quite the same. No, and neither will you. Every day, every hour sees a change in you, although the ravages of time are easier to see in others. In your own case, they are far less obvious because to you they do not show. While other people are snatched away from us, we are being filched away surreptitiously from ourselves. Are you never going to give any of these considerations any thought, and never going to apply any healing treatment to your wounds, instead of sowing the seeds of worry for yourself by hoping for this or that, or despairing of obtaining this or that other thing? If you're sensible, you'll run the two together, and never hope without an element of despair, never despair without an element of hope. What good has travel of itself ever been able to do anyone? It has never acted as a check on pleasure or a restraining influence on desires. It has never controlled the temper of an angry man or quelled the reckless impulses of a lover. Never, in fact, has it rid the personality of a fault. It has not granted us the gift of judgment. It has not